What up, folks? It's your pal, Coach Vino, and this is the Glass Half Full podcast where we turn setbacks into comebacks. Let's go.
Yo, everybody goes through setbacks, but don't let these setbacks make you take a step back. Step back from the situation, put your brush down, envision the picture you're faith in, because everybody goes through setbacks.
All right. Welcome back to the podcast. I am Coach Vino, the people's bartender, and your certified coach from the Boogie Down Bronx. So it's been a couple weeks since my last podcast. Unfortunately, I had some stuff going on, and unfortunately I did. There were good things, and I did not have time to record, but here I am, and I've got a good one. One that I think is very important because it's addressing something that I think a lot of people carry around with them quietly. And it's mistakes. Everyone's carrying around with them mistakes. And I'm not talking about like the little mistakes either. I'm talking about the ones that keep you up at night. The ones that pop into your head when things get quiet, when the world gets quiet. The ones that make you cringe or wince when you think about them. They make you question the kind of person you are, right? But I want to start with something simple, but very powerful. You are not your mistakes. You are not. I know that sounds obvious when you hear it out loud, but a lot of people don't actually believe that. Because what happens is this, right? I'm going to tell you right now, I've been this guy, right? We make a mistake and we start attaching our identity to it. I messed that up slowly becomes I'm a fuck up. I made a bad decision, soon becomes I'm bad at making decisions. I hurt someone, and then that starts to turn into I'm a terrible person. And before long, the mistakes stop becoming something you did, and they start becoming something you think you are. And let me tell you something, that's a very dangerous place to live, because mistakes, they're just events. They're just moments. Okay. Identity is who you believe yourself to be. And when you mix those two things up, you start carrying a weight that was never meant to stick around forever. Okay. Let me tell you something. Every single person you admire has made mistakes. I mean, if you admire me, I got news for you, pal. Nobody's made more mistakes than me. And some of them were big ones. Bad calls, wrong turns, regrets, moments that I wish I could take back. But those moments didn't define me or anyone else that you admire, unless they decided to stay there. Because see, mistakes are like teachers. Okay? They're not landlords, all right? You're supposed to visit, okay, these mistakes, learn something from them, and then move on. Okay? You don't live with them. But a lot of people make the mistake of moving in permanently with their mistakes. And let me tell you something, mistakes are bad landlords. Okay? But when you start replaying these mistakes in your head, you start punishing yourself for these mistakes, and then you start to use them as proof of who you are. Let me tell you something. That's how growth stops. And we're all about growth on this here podcast. Making a mistake means you were living. You were alive. It means you tried something. You took a risk. You made a decision. You were participating in this wonderful, unpredictable thing that we call life. And participation, it carries with it the possibility of, things not going right, of errors happening. But the people who grow the most aren't the ones who avoid the mistakes. They're the ones who learn from them without letting them destroy their sense of self. There's a big difference between accountability and self-destruction. Because accountability says, yeah, I messed up, What can I learn from this? Self-destruction says, I messed up, so I guess I'm not capable. I'm no good. You see the difference? One of those leads to learning and growth, and the other one just leads you to shame. And shame is a heavy burden to carry with you. Shame is what keeps people quiet. It keeps them stuck. It convinces them that their story has already ended. There's nothing left to do. But your story isn't written by your worst moments. It's written about what you do after your worst moments. Did you learn? Do you repair the things that you can repair? Do you grow into someone who handles things better the next time something like this comes up? Because that's where character actually shows up, not in perfection, but in correction. I want you to think about something, all right? If a close friend came to you and said, listen, I made a mistake, would you say to them, well, I guess that defines who you are, buddy. That's you. You're your mistakes. Of course not. You'd probably say, all right, what did you learn? How can you move forward? You'd show them understanding. But for some reason, when it comes to ourselves, we don't show any of that kind of compassion. We hold ourselves to a standard we wouldn't put on somebody else. So here's something I want you to remember, okay? Mistakes are part of the human experience. They're evidence that you're learning, that you're adjusting, that you're evolving. But they're not a life sentence. And they definitely don't get to decide who you are. Who you are is determined by your values, by your actions moving forward after these mistakes and your willingness to grow from them. Not by one bad day or one bad decision. I mean, it's just one chapter in a very long story. You are allowed to outgrow your past, my friend. You are allowed to become wiser than the person who made that mistake. And if you are definitely allowed to forgive yourself, once you've done the work to learn from it. Because growth requires space. You need the space. And if you keep squeezing yourself into this vision of yourself being a mistake, if you keep chaining yourself down to these worst moments of your life, you're never going to give yourself room to grow. So if there's something from your past that you've been carrying around like it's your identity, let today be the day that you separate the two. You made a mistake. You made mistakes. You are not that mistake. You are not those mistakes. Be the person who learned from them. The person who kept going. The person you chose to become. A better person. And that person deserves a little bit of grace. You understand? Well, that's all I got for you folks. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd appreciate if you left a review so you can help Coach Vino feed the hungry algorithm. If you or someone you know might want to work with Coach Vino, you can visit my website at coachvinollc.com. You can also follow the podcast on social media where I share my thoughts in bite sizes, and it gives me an opportunity to directly interact with you guys. So I'm everywhere at Coach Vino Podcast. And remember, folks, if nobody else tells you, Coach Vino appreciates you. Cheers.
Reveal these thoughts and express what I'm feeling in a hip-hop form. But I was born to succeed, so as long as I breathe, ain't nobody on this earth gonna crush my dreams. Yo, this might be the end of the verse, but this is just the start of a new beginning. Word.